Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Knowledge Hour with Infosys. Knowledge Hour with Infosys is an endeavor to facilitate free flow of ideas and information from industry leaders and subject matter experts. Here, we try to make the young, bright minds aware of the latest industry trends and business developments in order to ensure that they are well prepared for the corporate world. Today, I welcome you all for the live Q&A on navigating the next in financial services through technology modernization by Infosys. Technology is revolutionizing the way in the financial industry. Our clients are looking at the modernization and digitization of their business landscape. This has accelerated exponentially during pandemic times. In the quest to achieve market leadership, the financial services industry firm continues to focus on becoming holistically digital. As part of this financial services at Infosys, we also seen many of our clients going through these shifts and also the challenges that they come across when they move from a legacy estate to modernized set of technology and landscape. They see challenges in terms of business, training of users, cost, budget, and so on. To know more about this, how technology is redefining across geographies, we have a fantastic panel with us who will talk about the future of technology, the present, and how we are gearing up ourselves, the view from the client from a delivery standpoint, and also from the business consulting standpoint. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the panelists one by one. Srini, over to you.
Hey, Happy New Year, folks. Hope you're all healthy. Very interesting times we are going through. I am Jay Srinivas. I am called a UTO within Infosys. What that means is I head an architecture team and support our clients globally. And all our clients are the banks. Yeah? So me and my band of architects, we consider ourselves as change makers, like Prometheus who brought fire to humans. We deal with the fire of technology, look at all the emerging, bleeding edge, leading edge tech, simplify them, industrialize them so that we can use in our regular projects safely. So I deal with high performance teams. I'm also part of a core group within Infosys on agile evangelization. So all these things are coming together very brilliantly. And in my spare time, I dabble with some blogging, carpentry, and I have a cute little cat. Narari, back to you.
Thank you, Srini. Kavita, over to you.
Thanks, Narhari, and a great introduction by Srini around what all he does. I'm Kavita Kadambi, AVP and Head for Digital for Financial Services. This is my second stint with Infosys. I started out my career here more than 2 decades ago as a software engineer. Since then, I have been in a startup in the mobile domain where I was responsible for various activities and roles, including heading the data product unit. And I have also been in a professional services company, the IT services industry, where I was responsible for the digital transformation of their internal IT landscapes. While I'm very busy working and making sure that digital transformation for all our financial services customers are happening very successfully from Infosys, I also make sure that I get some time for crosswords, which I do on an everyday basis, more than one sometimes now that we're in a pandemic and we're working from home. And of course, a lot more time that I get to spend with my family. Back to you, Narhari. I'm looking forward to working with this audience here today.
Thank you, Kavita. Suresh, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are. I had the delivery for financial services. Like Kavita, this is my second stint. And Infosys, they say that once an Infosys, you're always an Infosys. So I truly believe in that. And we have, I, so I had the delivery for the financial services. Then I have a dual degree both in finance and marketing. So I'm a consummate financial professional, and I'm happy to share my experiences during the knowledge session. Over to you, Narahari.
Thank you, Suresh. Mandar, last but not the least.
Thanks, Narahari. I'm excited to be part of this live session and looking forward to interacting with all the participants. But a quick introduction about myself. My name is Mandar Joshi. At Infosys, I'm responsible for business consulting, analysis, and product implementation services that we offer to our banking and capital market clients. About myself, work experience wise, I have about 23 years working with various global financial institutions, the likes of BNY Mellon, JPM Chase, UBS, Credit Suisse, and New York Stock Exchange. I have played multiple roles. I have done technology leadership, consulting, large program implementations. Before joining Infosys, I was the director and head of India Development Center for the hedge funds group at BNY Mellon. And this is also where I gained experience in leading large technology modernization and digitization programs, specifically around client onboarding and digitization of hedge fund operations. So that's in a nutshell about me. Back to you, Narahari.
Thank you, Mandar. Before I move on to a series of questions, I seem to have forgotten about myself. I just realized it. I'm Narahari. I am Vice President and Head of Delivery for Financial Services. I primarily look after the Europe and the Asia Pacific market. And I work with this panelist almost on a day in, day out basis. So I will deep dive into the set of questions. Srini, you are the UTO, you are the future. You decide how or define how the future looks like. So let me come to you directly. Can you please shed some light on aspired tech mod journey for the banks in next 3 to 5 years? You'll have to unmute, I guess, Srini.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I was saying it's fairly risky to try to attempt to predict the future, but here we go. I think banks will be occupied technology-wise 4 broad areas for next 3 years or so, and then few more set of technologies will come in along the way, right? Cloud is everywhere. You would have heard about cloud. If you have not heard, then probably you're not working in IT. So cloud, along with the modern architectures of microservices, APIs, a little bit of a data, and of course applied artificial intelligence, AI, ML. How do we create an architecture that is going to be more resilient and more future-proof? That's the endeavor. A few banks are midway through that. Some are just starting. Second big one is the data. So data is everything. IBM calls it the new oil, natural resource. People have made a lot of money by sitting on piles of data, but data is just really going to explode. So we're going to see data lakes forming, curation of data, integrating disparate data sources, and then of course the analytics and AI part of it comes in. How to make sense of it? How do we give insights, actionable intelligence, and so on and so forth. Yeah? And then along with these two is the culture of how we can do agile. So how do we do meaningful work that can be used in a very short time? So pod-based delivery is a lot more automation, DevOps will come. Last part, the fourth one would be on the user experience. How do we make it easy, intuitive? Of course, AI will come in here. You have seen chatbots, intelligent chatbots, voice ecosystems, Alexa, Siri. You'll see gestures, video, whatnot. Later, if chance comes, Mandar will talk about how people are onboarding customers using video tech. While these 4 areas will keep us busy, don't forget IoT, AR, VR. We'll figure out what to do in banks. More of that later. Low code, no code. That's coming in a nice way to stitch disparate things, help business do things faster. Blockchain, I think that will come in the picture. 5G, edge computing, a whole gamut of things. And who knows, maybe nanotech, 3D printing, very, very exciting times. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Srini. It looks really exciting, and I don't know where we will land up. I can only see a set of challenges what the team, people who are getting into the corporate world need to figure out what all to learn. But future definitely looks exciting. So, Kavita, next question to you. What role is Infosys playing in the digital-led disruption, particularly from a financial industry standpoint? And also, if you can throw some color on how Infosys offerings, what are the Infosys offerings and how Infosys offerings is helping us?
Sure. As Srini mentioned, cloud-led modernization has taken center stage in the financial services industry. And this has only accelerated post-pandemic. We all know that prior to the pandemic, the financial services industry was probably not as heavy on the cloud. But our offerings in this space have now enabled to lead and navigate our customers and their journeys on digital transformation towards a resilient live enterprise where they continue to be relevant, where they continue to be completely secure, and continue to get the gains of being onto the cloud. We're also going ahead and making sure that the cloud is really going to be the new infrastructure of choice in the new normal, having proven its resiliency. Likewise, we have Agile, which is the new way of working in this hyper-distributed world, and technology adoption with Agile and DevOps taking the way with the cloud is something that we will see only accelerating. We have offerings in this space on DevOps and Agile besides the cloud, both on the cloud as well as off the cloud, which will help our customers navigate their digital journeys. We also have a lot more of open source technology adoption that we will see only increasing together with data modernization. As Srini said, data lakes will get built only when data modernization also takes place. And this will also go ahead and fuel the growth of applied AI. Infosys is accelerating cloud-led modernization through our platforms as well. The Cobalt platform and the surround ecosystem of technology and business assets, as well as the as-a-service models that we are pioneering, the developer community, the partners, and the hyperscalers, turbocharges customers' embracement of the cloud. The Infosys Modernization Suite, together with the Leap platform, also goes ahead and enhances user experience and goes ahead and provides the opportunities for our folks internally to go ahead and build on these platforms through the entire ecosystem which exists, and also go ahead and enrich both themselves as well as the ecosystem itself. And all of this is happening through our very unique talent model, which goes ahead and encourages a lot of skilling, reskilling, refactoring with the likes of digital tags and digital quotients, which are applied to our global talent universally, where we go and ensure that we are always keeping ahead with the digital times and making sure that we're able to navigate our own careers as well with digital quotients.
Thank you, Kavita. That was quite insightful. So, Suresh, over to you. The question to you is, you head the delivery for financial services with a primary access around US. Wanted to get a perspective from your side. What are the clients seeing when we deliver this kind of a transformational set of programs, and very complex ones? Some of them are really going to be complex, even for the client first time, and sometimes we also are pretty much into thick of this. And what is the client feedback around this complex delivery?
Yeah, good question, Narahari. So, in addition to what Kavita and Jay spoke about it, see, I would actually look at it as a pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. So, pre-pandemic, clients were looking at data privacy, tight knit systems, very closed systems, and they would like to test thoroughly before they introduce any of the product into the market. But post pandemic, things have changed dramatically, right? So they have a couple of focus areas. One is how is it the client behavior is going to change. They are looking at it. So what essentially it means that there will be some offline and online system. So in order to get up to the offline and online systems, they need to completely transform their architecture, estate, legacy estate, etc. So what essentially it means that like other industries, we need to perform, we need to accelerate, we need to innovate much faster and quicker. And the most focus area is going to be on the efficiency and efficacy of a delivery of your products and solutions. So now is the time for financial services industry to gear up and try to modernize their estate, do the vendor consolidation for optimization of the cost, and build very efficient solutions around the products they have in the short term. What I meant is, for example, to launch a product into the market. Let's say they would be taking earlier, they used to take 3 to 6 months. They need to do it in a month's time. And typically, for a consumer, if you're trying to approve a loan, typically for a mortgage loan, it takes 3 to 4 weeks. It has to happen in 3 days now. So, what does it mean? Means that the delivery of the solution needs to change. There will be changes to the compliance rules, and there will be multiple factors and actors involved into the particular thing. All has to happen seamlessly online. So there will be tremendous changes that you could expect happening in the next 24 to 36 months. And what clients are looking at other industries to accelerate their innovation faster. So IT in financial services industry actually has a lot of budgets, but they focus on durability and longevity. I think there will be a subtle change now, more agile, completely agile, then deliver faster, then build the accelerators, and look at for the companies which will give them immediate results. So things are going to change. I think we at Infosys have been geared up, and we have created multiple solutions for them. So we call them as industry vertical solution and also accelerators. So what essentially it means that we will have a loosely coupled architecture. We can either deliver on the cloud, or we could deliver in sourcing, or we could actually do a SaaS model as well. So things will be pretty vibrant, and I would see vendor consolidation and optimization in other areas will lead huge innovation in the coming quarters for financial services industry. Over to you,
Thank you,
Narendra.
Suresh. Thank you. It was quite detailed and gave a good perspective. Mandar, to you, as we have heard the panelists talk about the complex programs being delivered, one of the things that come to our mind is the challenges that we face delivering complex transformational programs, especially from a business analysis, business consulting standpoint. That's where your expertise comes in. So, can you throw some light around these challenges and how to circumvent those challenges?
Sure. Good question. Uh, Infosys has been partnering with clients for multiple large transformation journeys, and there are multiple challenges that we usually encounter. But I'm going to pick top three common challenges that we work with our clients to resolve. So the first one that comes to my mind is what I call as reimagine. So oftentimes, when you are transforming and adopting digital, there is a tendency to just recreate the modern past. And I think it's important to move away from that and really transform what you're trying to do. And I'll give you an example, right? So typically, when people think of, say, let's take account opening, right? New account opening, they only tend to think of let's redesign the UI, make it more user friendly, develop an app maybe. But the underlying theme is, yeah, you still expect the user to go in, fill in the data, put in the information. uh, Whereas the transformative approach would be, is there a way where you can do the account opening completely through a video based interactive experience? So a user just shows his ID card, and then from video intelligently the application picks up the right data So he doesn't have to fill up anything, and he interacts, provides the proofs needed, and the whole process gets over in 30 minutes. That's really the transformation and the reimagination that I'm talking of. So that's one. The second is, I would say, linking the modernization with the business growth or revenue growth. So it's all good to talk about transformation, moving to cloud, introducing a blockchain, but ultimately business stakeholders are asking this important question: what is it what is in it for me? Is it going to lead to new products being introduced? Is it going to help me tap new markets? So that's the important question, right? And the third important piece is, Suresh mentioned about how the pace of delivery needs to gear up to modern times. So in order to achieve that, we are looking at building an ecosystem of innovation. So rather than taking an approach where we build everything grounds up, we are really trying to create a mashup of maybe a fintech offering, maybe a product offering with an overlay of Infosys SI, right? Service integration layer. So that those are two or three major challenges that we have seen. So that's in a nutshell. Back to you, Nahari.
Thank you, Mandar. Okay, so we started getting questions from the chat. I will, start directing these questions based on the relevance. I'll pick up the participants, our panelists. So, Srini, this is for you. Blockchain, as you identified, right? Blockchain is something which is which has been a buzzword, at least in the financial services industry. Holds a lot of promise still. Just wanted you to give a view on, has it matured beyond the buzzword and beyond pilot, and what is in its what is the shelf life and what is in store for blockchain in financial industry space?
Yeah, so blockchain is here to stay. Yeah. And as a technology, I think it's already mature. The Bitcoin proved that it's a fairly mature technology. Yeah. So thing is this, right? Blockchain, if you break it down, it has a distributed shared ledger. It has encryption of the data. It has identity. You identify who is doing what, and then it has a very robust security and a peer-to-peer nature, right? That's very critical because as long as at least two nodes are aligned on the chain, you can get back a lot of stuff. But people haven't understood this. They have tried to use what Bitcoin did. So, but things like cross-border payments, wallets, loyalty management, and things like that, these fields will mature. Yeah, smart contracts, so trade finance, syndicated loans, things like that. You will see that as people understand it better, these uh, these areas will evolve. Clearing and settlements, even KYC, right? A lot of these things you could do KYC as a service on a blockchain and things like that. But for me, and this is a little disruptive or controversial, for me, blockchain is a fundamental technology. It's like a database or an internet. Yeah, and it's a peer-to-peer technology that solves security and data problems. If we can get some peer-to-peer compute and networking technologies mature, I think it can solve a lot of issues today. The 5G will give it a bit more fillip. The edge computing will come in. So maybe it'll take another 2-3 years, but blockchain will explode, and it will explode in a way we haven't thought of before. Yeah? We used to think of internet in one way before 2002 and .com burst, and what Google, Amazon, and the big five did to internet, HTTP, we couldn't have imagined in 2000. And we are at that juncture today. So just wait for 2 years.
Thank you, Srini. This one is to you, Suresh. What are the implications of social media on bank brands? How we engage customers and how this impacts the organization structure?
Yeah, I just go back to when I shared my initial one. That is what I said about efficiency and efficacy. I I think banks are trying to integrate the operations and the business into one team now. So because of the applied AI techniques, we have actually developed a lot of algorithms and analytics for them, so that at least banks can see how they are faring better. So the only way, because social media is in a way a very impactful one, the only way we could look at how doing stuff in a better way is to be proactive and try to sense what is happening in the market and do that. So regarding the structure, there will be an integrated teams that I would foresee that is happening already in few banks, where technology, business, and operations are together trying to address them. So uh, if you look at these teams will be loosely coupled, but at the same time they were able to quickly adapt to the social media impacts to the banks. So not much of a change you could expect in terms of organization, but technology will become much more powerful, and it will provide them a lot of insights into the consumer behavior, so that at least banks can react. So what I would foresee is that there will be some time will be available for the bank managers to look at and respond to that. So it's going to happen. I'm sure we had a blackouts on AWS recently as well. So people are looking at moving into polycloud. So once you enable the polycloud, the organization structure will be on time, always available information. So things will change in the future, but I'm sure banks are taking baby steps now.
Okay, thanks, Suresh. I was just looking at the chat when you were speaking. Kavita, this is to you. What are the platforms we are using in the field of AI development? Any color that you can throw?
So while there are several standard platforms which are available for AI development, and this is market-wide available, we also have our own platform, which is Cobalt and applied AI on Cobalt. For example, Srini himself has developed the Infosys Text Analytics platform, which goes ahead and provides the capabilities to go ahead and do AI and ML in the banking industry and the financial services industry. The cloud is going to be playing a pivotal role in everything AI ML as well. So the cloud providers themselves have their native platforms, which are used for everything AI ML. But as Suresh also rightly mentioned, there is always going to be some level of multi-cloud capabilities which are going to be required when we go ahead and use AI ML, and we will go ahead and see some of that evolve going along. The use of AI ML in financial service industry has not been as high as it has been in the direct consumer space, but we do expect that a lot of this will be increasing over the next few months.
Thank you, Kavita. This is a favorite one on robotics. Vinny, this is for you. What's the role of robotics in the education, and how does it help at least in the financial services industry space?
Yeah, present situation, not a lot. Yeah, but again, if we go a little further, maybe quite a bit. Even currently, I know there is a firm in Mysore which does robotics for ATM cleaning and loading. So it can reduce a lot of time in maintenance of ATMs, and their order book is filled for 3 years. Yeah. But as we go, you will see, those cute little robots who will greet you, can do basic services for you, whatever you can do as a self-service. But if you want a little assisted, that could be there. Of course, in private banking and investment banking, we have robotic advisors, which actually powered with AI brings the services which were only available to high net worth individuals to the retail market. Yeah. So combining with IoT, AR, VR, you can see a lot of development here in robotics. Fairly nascent and initial days today, but as I said, a lot of automation will be the focus. You wouldn't see robots which are humanoids or like in automobile industry, doing things because financial service is not there. But think of a lot of work that can be automated. Whatever work doesn't require extreme troubleshooting and creativity, it will get automated. And that will free us up to do more products, more creative, and hopefully go to the unbanked and increase the financial coverage for a lot of people.
Thank you, Srini. Mandar, this is for you. What are the potential barriers in financial services space around innovation? Right, you do a lot of work closely with the business users. What are the barriers on for innovation?
Sure, this is really an interesting question. Actually, what comes first to my mind is the size of a lot of these financial institutions. So, as IBM CEO famously said, elephants can dance, but as the size increases, it probably becomes a bit difficult for them to dance often. I think as the size grows, at times, unless you take care of modifying your organization structure to really foster innovation, it really becomes difficult for banks and financial institutions to innovate rapidly. So that's the foremost. The second, I would say, is banks or in general financial institutions are extremely wary of anything to do with data, right? Data secrecy, breaches, uh, because they are ultimately the custodians of that data and the trust that customers repose on them, and hence there is intense scrutiny on anything new offering, new way of doing things, and at times that elongates the process for getting anything out in the market. So I think those are a couple of things that come at the top of my mind, Narari.
Thank you, Mandar. This is another question. It is again an interesting around innovation. Maybe Suresh, you can pick it up.
Oh, this is
What kind of innovative services or products did Infosys come up during pandemic, and which were relevant to the finance industry?
so I jumped the gun already. So this is the very pertinent topic. I think most of our my discussions with the clients happens around these. So we are looking at very interesting examples. See, one of the banker was looking at since because of the pandemic, how does the mortgage loans is going to affect the individuals? So we have developed a behavioral solution for them. So it's an analytics based solution. It helps them to figure out whether a person is in a position to continue with the loan or he will default it. So we have actually built a default predictor algorithm for them. All we did it in 6 to 8 weeks. That was one of the innovation that we brought in because of applied AI techniques. And we also did a couple of things in the other areas as well. For example, in terms of correspondent lending in a mortgage industry, typically the loans are bought and sold. The time it takes is anywhere between 3 to 6 weeks. But we have developed an AI doc solution in a short span of time. They were able to do that in weeks and days rather than taking months. So what essentially it means that because of innovation, they can reduce their exposure to the market. At the same time, it will be more accurate. And the other one, again, I talk about in the lending space, where we are looking at, we are in the process of delivering a solution to one of the banks in another week down the line, is helping the efficiency of an underwriter. So we call it as the AI underwriter. So what essentially it means that today in the typical industry scenario, the default or issues are there 1:3, we are making it to 1:10. If you make it 1:10, you are not only improving the customer experience, you're also trying to improve the loan disbursal, at the same time collections as well. So if you start doing these innovations in steps, I'm sure banks will actually manage their cash better, and also the customer experience and customer satisfaction. I can talk multiple innovation that we are doing in a small ways. That's what I called them as acceleration in the beginning. I'm sure banks are looking at such quick things to be delivered, deployed in the fastest possible manner.
Thank you, Suresh. Srini, on any interesting user story which addresses the future initiatives of a finance domain, anything that comes to your mind?
Oh, quite a few months. But yeah, see, we have been working on APIs, the so-called open banking, which is taking the regulations across the countries. We were also working with AI. We dabbled with some voice. So one of our team members came up with this brilliant idea of mixing all of these. Yeah. So we have a voice ecosystem on top of all the open banking or any open API initiatives. Yeah. It could be as mundane as an intelligent chatbot, or it could actually do voice-enabled transactions. So getting these all together, we are actually actively working in the lab on this voice ecosystem. So like I said, UI, user experience of future is going to be driven by much more intuitive interfaces. And AI is going to play a big role in it. And it gets decomposed into how you do that. Yeah. See, another interesting thing that we thought is, early days of AI, there was a lot of sentiment analysis being done. So we played around and we have this where if you're doing a conference, a web conference, or even a session like this, we can analyze the speakers and the attention span they're doing by gestures, speech modulations, also the effectiveness of how the session is going. If you have more data, we can also see how it's being received and all. So we believe these can be used, let's say, in a relationship management kind of a conversations, or even in training. Yeah, you're looking at much better training. So a lot of insights. I can keep talking about it, but the crux is this, right? There are a lot of technologies we were looking at it little disjointed. So AI had its place, mobile and agile has its place, cloud had its place, data had its place. Time has come to knit all of it together and then take it closer to how human beings interact with each other. So we are very fast approaching machines building consciousness.
Yep. Interestingly, there is a book on the analysis, text analysis, and speech analytics you're talking about, right? There's an entire science and behavioral science behind that. But that books will keep it aside for some other time. Kavita, this is for you. What kind of competencies that people need to build? Especially, we've talked a lot about agile implementation and so on, right? In the agile space, what kind of challenges you're going to see if a normal person has to get into this kind of programs and projects, and what kind of competencies that needs to be built?
So, Agile has been around a while and it's here to stay. But perhaps what has changed is what are the technologies that are powering Agile. What we are seeing is that if people go ahead and try to do Agile in the erstwhile earlier standard project management methodologies, that doesn't work. Agile, by definition, and behavior means nimbleness as well, and velocity. And that's what will be required. There will be speed and velocity that will be required for delivery, and there will be nimbleness. And we are seeing that in the kind of technologies that are coming up. Cloud-based DevOps tool chains are absolutely the in thing at this point in time. So you cannot do Agile without understanding DevOps and all the other flavors of DevOps, which could be SecOps, BizDevOps, SRE, etc. The other aspect, which is going to be super important, is to ensure that we continue to go ahead and maintain security at the highest standards of requirements and compliance while continuing to do DevOps and Agile. Agile is also going ahead and impacting databases. So we will see a lot more of the likes of DB DevOps and AI Ops. And this is also something which is going to be inbuilt into everything that's going to be Agile. So yes, several flavors of Agile, and I'm not even talking about the likes of the SAFe, etc., etc. but really around the technology aspects and the competencies which are going to be required to ensure that Agile can scale in the current technology landscapes, especially with the hyperscalers.
Thank you, Kavita. Mandar, this is for you. This is again, heard and talked a lot during the pandemic time. What are the upcoming challenges after pandemic in the financial services space and also in the technology side, right? It's not just relevant to financial services, but you can give a color from a FS standpoint.
Yeah, sure. So I think two or three things that come to mind. One is the pandemic changed the revenue model or the business model upside down for many of the industries, and financial services were no different. And actually, the subsegments within the financial industry had different impacts. Just to give you an example, let's say if a bank depended heavily on branch banking, people visiting, let's say, community banking from a US standpoint, that changed overnight, right? Because people just could not reach a bank. But it had positive impacts on some of the other segments, like, let's say, trading, right? As the volatility in the markets increased, more and more people started trading. And on the investment banking trading side, the revenues just zoomed through. Similarly, on payments, it was kind of neutral because the travel and all the leisure related payments went down. So basically, the revenue models completely changed, and that too very, very swiftly. So that was one. The other is the whole business resiliency came into sharp focus, right? So organizations that had diversified their operations, had tested out remote working, had been using work from home extensively, they were relatively better off. But then there are businesses which are dependent on manufacturing operations. They were impacted to a greater extent. So those are some of the challenges that our customers have been facing. Needless to say, the challenge on the interest rates, as the interest rates have gone down, there is going to be pressure on banks because of the net interest margins going down. On the technology side, I would say the biggest was to ensure that we continue to provide services to our customers. So the initial few weeks, it was very challenging for everyone, but essentially we needed to make sure that our critical systems are functional and well supported. So that is the primary thing. But then again, it also meant adjusting to the ways of working from home and still being productive. So those are and also the as everybody started working from home, the infrastructure, the cloud based scaling was really tested out, stress tested, if I may say so. So I think those are some of the challenges that pandemic has thrown at us.
Yeah, I can add to that, Narari.
Go on.
In terms of the what Manda spoke about business and the rest of the things. So banks are looking at deployment because of this offline and online model that is going to come. There will be huge demand for digital skills. So if you see that in the next few weeks or months, there will be tremendous scope for the financial industry exposure people. If they relearn, reskill amongst themselves, there'll be huge demand for them. So you would see cloud adoption, legacy modernization, and digital skills and user experience. So things are going to change very drastically. If you say, just to quantify it, one of the bank is completely looking at transforming their legacy architecture into AWS enabled architecture. So what essentially it means that they will throw away their mainframe estate and they're going to build everything on new. So the banks are becoming bold, and they're also looking at implementing the newer technologies much faster, quicker, and nimble. So there are many such examples going to happen. For us, companies like Infosys, we need to gear up. Though we have the financial domain expertise, we need to reskill. We need to retool ourselves with the latest technologies. You need to get certified at least one or two skills. Over to
Thank
you,
you,
Naren.
Suresh. Thank you. Srini, the favorite topic of yours, open banking. Do you see open banking in big way, and what are the challenges we are seeing of its adoption, especially considering the operationalization of API and SME bandwidth, right? Those issues are there, but what do you think the future for open banking looks like?
So future is open. Okay. Big fan of openness, maker revolution. Okay. But yeah, open banking, I think it has a little bit more time for it to evolve. But don't forget, UPI, the payments infrastructure of India, I think that's the best example of what openness can do. Uh, of course, it also, it took off because the government did a lot of support. Yeah? The technology stack, the technology infrastructure is not owned by any bank or a bank consortium. It is facilitated. Therefore, for the banks to use that became easy. The first 36 banks as a pilot they came in, and the rest of the banks followed. And that's a classic example of how to do an open API well. You don't even know it's an open API, right? So your Paytms, Google Pays, Phone Pay, all of them. I'm a little surprised why banks are not pushing their wallets much more aggressively. But if you see in UK, it is at making the market more competitive. Yeah. Australia has taken a more broader view. Some of the European countries are first starting with payments and then looking at the customer data and information, and then of course the products. So my particular take, you will see a lot of innovation on open banking and payments. The payments needs to get a lot faster, more real time, and more fraud free. I'm also betting blockchain will come in somewhere handy in that. Okay. On loans, mortgages, loans, basically a credit. I think openness, creating open APIs will unlock liquidity a lot more. But it also requires some will from the banks. Maybe banks have to come together and agree on the standards, or a tighter enforcement from the government, and also playing a facilitation role. Today it is all through regulation penalties, and some banks are saying I'll pay penalty rather than do anything else. But if you use a facilitated way, I think it will happen. But we have seen in telecom, open APIs have been really embraced. And anywhere you open up, the innovation is going to take over. And you're going to see 10x, 20x productivity and innovative ideas coming in. So yeah, just wait. Open banking will come.
Thank you, Srini. I'm just sifting through. Yeah, so this is on the data analytics side in FS. So the user wants to know what are the use cases we have on the data analytics side in financial services space, especially focusing on data science. Kavita, this is for you. Sorry.
Sure, thanks. So I think the overall, everything that we've been speaking about right now is based on data. So everything that Suresh talked about around going ahead and saying, hey, we can get a default prediction system. We can go ahead and build everything from AI ML standpoint, where we can go about understanding, and everything was done in 8 weeks or so. Everything is based on data analytics and data sciences. So this is just one example, right? Everything around fraud. There are so many products out there to make sure that there is fraud detection, prevention, etc. A lot of that will be built on data analytics and will use data sciences behind them. And all of this is going to go ahead and have the kind of inroads that are being made for both on the consumer side, where consumers will go ahead and have a lot more insights coming in for them, a lot more predictability coming in for them, a lot more capability that will be there with different experiences, of course. And there will also be so much more that is going to happen with financial services and banks with their back end processes as well. A lot of this is also being taken up by the fintechs, and we work very closely with the fintechs, and we use a lot of data analytics and data sciences capabilities to ensure that all of this is happening, because we're then part of the real banking transformation journeys for our customers, where they can then go ahead and empower how best they want to go ahead and use the data. And remember that a lot of this is also running on open banking, the APIification that we spoke about, and transformation of legacy and modernization of legacy onto newer technologies. So everything is continues to be fully relevant, and several use cases which are actually out there towards all of this. Payments is another aspect, whole new form of payments which are happening with data analytics as well as data sciences. Back to you, Nahari.
Thank you, Kavita. There's an interesting question on SAP. The role of SAP in financial services. We have seen very limited of it, but still, I'd like to ask maybe Suresh and Kavita to take this question.
Yeah, I see this SAP. They're relevant in the wealth area, and they do some in terms of cash management. But I do not see much of exposure in the SAP. But I'm sure going through their racket, going through their document, their information, I would see that they're also trying to gear up in terms of user experience, in terms of integrating backwards into their main products, either MM or financial modules. Uh, but at the moment, what financial services industry is gearing towards is adoption of fintechs. If you have a good solution which can integrate into their environment in a quickest manner, I think they are going to be the winners. So I would see the proliferation of fintechs with nimble solutions will have a much larger play than SAP. Kavita, you are going to add to that?
Sure. So from my experience, and from what I have seen, uh, the shift that a lot of enterprises have made with SAP to HANA, and the likes, will is still there, is still not as prevalent in the financial services industry. The financial services industry has primarily run off mainframes and the likes. But having said that, as you rightly said, Suresh, and adding on to this, there will be an accelerated shift towards modernizing experiences. And a lot of this is going to be on the back of data. So there will always be a modernization of the systems of records, the systems of engagement, which will be there. And that will go ahead and get driven by newer and newer technologies. So we believe that the embracement of the cloud, embracement of newer user experience from a lot of standpoints, embracement of making sure that we have all the AI, ML capabilities, etc., are the ones which are going to go ahead and play a larger role, at least in the financial services industry that I can foresee.
Thank you, Suresh, Kavita. This one is around AML, anti-money laundering, terrorist financing kind of activities, because of which banks will have to post transactions monitoring around financial crime. Maybe this is more to you, Mandar. You are in that space. The question is, what has been done, or any use cases you can think of, or what kind of work is being done around this?
Sure. So I think there are a couple of interesting work that we are doing for our clients. One that comes to mind is use of AI to reduce the false positives. So, in order to be, or let's just say banks use the principle of abundant caution, right? So what that means is if they are not sure, they are more likely to flag off a transaction, which means that there are a lot of false positives, and that means more work for banks. So we are working with banks and with our product partners and embed AI in the whole ecosystem such that it becomes a learning application, and based on how the operations users are reacting to those, we over period of time reduce the noise in the system. So that's an example. Another example is sort of moving it more near real time, uh, reducing the lag between when the transaction gets reported versus when when the transaction is occurring versus when it is detected and flagged off. um, uh, and if I want to go over to the exchange and trading side of things, then it is around surveillance, right? Which is even more complex. But that's also where we are working with regulators in both Indian and overseas context, where regulators are very keen to look at what AI can do in order to detect even more complex ways of rigging markets. So it's a very interesting and evolving field, and I think it's going to make the overall marketplace safer as we adopt these technologies more and more.
Thank you, Mandar. That was insightful. Maybe this is a last question. This is around Infosys Cobalt offering. Some user has posted saying he or she wants to know what is this Infosys Cobalt cloud service offering, and whether it is using Azure or AWS, what kind of technology it's using. Maybe Kavita, this is for you. You can respond.
Sure. Thank you, and thank you to the user. Infosys Cobalt is really an ecosystem of assets, a developer community, technology capabilities, and an entire ecosystem which is built to go ahead and have our customers accelerate their embracement of the cloud journey. So our customers may be fully on-prem, maybe on a single cloud, maybe on multi-clouds, or maybe still thinking about embracing the cloud. Infosys Cobalt goes ahead and accelerates that embracement. We work across multiple clouds, and primarily we have both business as well as technology assets. Right now it's in the tens of thousands of assets that we have, which goes ahead and ensures that a customer's cloud journey is accelerated, smooth, as well as ensures the kind of resiliency which they would want when they go ahead and embrace the cloud. There's a lot more that is getting built on Cobalt, and it is an absolutely exciting space to go ahead and be in.
It's a poly cloud as well. So
it is a yes, it is a poly cloud. Yes.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. So I think we have come to the end of the hour, top of the hour. Let me just conclude. So it's been an exhilarating Q&A session, and I also see a lot of questions coming in. Because of paucity of time, we had to limit it here. But I would like to thank all our viewers who took time to join us. I know it's late, at least in India. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And special thanks to the viewers, people who are posting questions, and of course the panelists. I know 1 hour is not sufficient to do justice for a large industry like financial services, but we will again come back with another session if possible. But until then, stay safe, take care. Thank you.
Hey guys.